My name's Ben, I'm from Common, and this is our project House 8. This is a story about context and custodianship. That is, how buildings respond to the tangible and intangible heritages encoded in the built environments around them, and how we can increase the longevity of buildings by thinking about a wider spectrum of use across their entire life cycle, rather than focusing exclusively on their initial use case. These two ideas are not discrete, but intertwined, and are certainly not new in architectural discourse, but are addressed in new ways in this project that I hope to be able to describe in the next 7 minutes and 20 seconds. The project is located on a small 8 by 8 metre site in North Melbourne, surrounded by laneways on 3.5 sides and a mix of historic warehouses, housing and some contemporary infill. A simple 3-storey extrusion covers the whole lot, with the southeast corner cut back to minimise overshadowing of properties adjacent to the rear. The small site and 100% site cover precluded the use of scaffolding, leading to the selection of precast concrete as the principal structure and external skin for the project. This concrete skin is articulated with a continuously differentiated surface pattern that reinterprets features of historic buildings in the surrounding area. Specifically, how facades in these historic buildings have increased surface articulation in areas around windows and doors, drawing visual attention and deflecting water and dirt from these openings. At RMIT, we ran a series of research-based electives investigating the use of digital tools for the development and fabrication of complex surfaces in precast concrete, through which a digital script was developed that reinterpreted this historic contextual trait, producing fields of increased surface articulation near windows and doors, and areas of turbulence where these fields interacted within the digital model of the building. These topologically complex surfaces were then scaled up and CNC milled into plywood panels, which were then used as moulds for the precast concrete wall panels that were fabricated off-site, and then finally erected on site over one very long and possibly the most stressful day of my life. The completed concrete skin references and transforms a brutalist tradition of articulated concrete through a contextual response to historical conditions that utilises contemporary digital design tools and fabrication. Okay, so back to context. In addition to the facade, throughout the design process, I was interested in the robustness of historic warehouses in the surrounding site and throughout North Melbourne more generally. These buildings often have column-free spans, limited internal walls, facilitating successful accommodation of warehouses, factories, offices, nightclubs, residences, and any other number of uses throughout their history of occupation. This contrasts with many contemporary infill buildings that rely on load-bearing internal walls, baking in their initial functional response in ways that often preclude even minor changes in use, severely limiting adaptability and thereby reducing the potential future lifespan of these buildings. This is actually one of ours, so I'm not criticising other architects. House 8 adapts this historic loft typology of the surrounding warehouses with a column-free interior where surfaces and circulation are pushed to the southern boundary to maximise reconfigurability. The current configuration of the house includes a self-contained apartment and garage on the ground floor, 2 bedrooms, and a study/guest bedroom, 2 bathrooms on the 2nd level, kitchen, dining and living room on the 3rd level, along with a green roof above. The concrete shell of the building is structurally independent, producing an 8 by 8 by 8 metre high enclosed volume that is infilled with floor framing to the Australian Timber Framing Code, AS 1684, and non-load-bearing walls, allowing for almost any internal reconfiguration of the building to occur without structural recertification. The use of solid hardwood timber rather than trusses or engineered timber facilitates this adaptation within the building, but also eventual disassembly and reuse for other projects. Raw or unfinished materials were selected throughout the project, as material wear does not detract from these finishes, rather than enriches them over time, while limiting environmental impact associated with additional applied finishes. This adaptable approach maximises the life of the building, ensuring that the embodied environmental impact of the project is mitigated over the maximum amount of time, rather than being lost when the project is no longer fit for the purpose it was originally designed for. The project's location and utilisation of a previously undevelopable small site demonstrates a viable model for this sort of small site infill housing, one that reduces consumption of land at the urban periphery, reducing direct and indirect transport-related environmental impacts. However, if I'm honest, these days I'm much more interested in our garden, that continues to delight me with its bounties, both large and small. In a disciplinary context where demolition is increasingly and justifiably unethical, this project attempts to answer the question of how to design buildings that won't need to be demolished in future, by developing or deploying a set of strategies to elongate utility by facilitating flexibility and enabling reuse. And perhaps more importantly for architecture as a cultural discipline, and we as architects as cultural workers, by building cultural value through engaging with and actively contributing into a place's built heritage as a continuing, collective and common project. Thank you.